Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a really unique perspective on one of the world's most stubborn conflicts, and it comes from a source that traces it all the way back to a single ancient family story.
You know, it's a question that has stumped world leaders and historians for generations. After all the peace treaties, all the summits, all the interventions, why does this region seem to be stuck in a cycle of never-ending conflict?
Well, the source material we're breaking down today offers a pretty startling answer. It argues the root cause isn't about oil or modern politics, but about an intense family drama, a feud that kicked off 4,000 years ago. So let's walk through that very specific story.
So here's our roadmap. We're going to start with the unending conflict we see today, then rewind to a feud of brothers, fast forward through Islam's prophesied rise, and then look into what the source calls a final world war. And finally, see how it all wraps up when a new world begins.
Okay, let's dive into part one. We're starting with the here and now. The source really sets the stage by saying that today's turmoil, well, it's not some modern political problem. It's an echo of something much, much older.
The whole idea boils down to this. To really understand the headlines you see today, you have to look way beyond recent history. You got to go all the way back to the very beginning of the story. The argument is that these ancient echoes aren't just history, they're actively shaping our world right now.
So, where did this all kick off? The source takes us back almost 4,000 years, to the patriarch Abraham. It claims that a series of rivalries right inside his own family is what set the world on its current path.
Okay, so the first critical split, according to this narrative, is all about Abraham's two sons. On one side, you've got Ishmael, who's seen as the ancestor of the Arab peoples. On the other, you have Isaac, the ancestor of the Israelites. A really bitter family conflict leads to Ishmael being cast out, while Isaac gets what the Bible calls the covenant promise, this special blessing and lineage that gets passed down through generations.
And right here, this is where a specific biblical prophecy becomes absolutely central to the argument. The source points to this verse about Ishmael. He shall be a wild man. His hand shall be against every man, to basically frame the future of his descendants, describing what sounds like a destiny of perpetual conflict.
And the family feud didn't stop there. Oh no. According to this story, it got way more intense in the next generation. After Jacob tricks his brother Esau out of his birthright, their descendants become sworn enemies. But here's the crucial link the source points out. Esau goes and marries one of Ishmael's daughters, and that moment right there basically merges the two resentful family lines, weaving them together into this single, complicated story of grievance. Okay, this brings us to a huge turning point. The booklet connects the rise of Islam, a force that literally reshaped the globe, directly back to that one branch of the family, the line of Ishmael.
Just look at how fast this all happened. In 570 AD, Muhammad is born. A little more than 100 years later, his followers had built an empire that stretched from Spain all the way to India. The source frames it like this. This new global power, founded by a descendant of Ishmael, just exploded out of Arabia. Its advance into Western Europe was only stopped at the Battle of Tours in France.
Now, to get a handle on this new power, the source outlines the 5 core practices that really unify Muslims across the globe: the declaration of faith, daily prayers, giving to charity, fasting during Ramadan, and the pilgrimage to Mecca. This is the very framework of the faith.
But even inside this powerful new force, another conflict was brewing, this time an internal one. A deep disagreement over who should succeed Muhammad split the faith into the Sunni and Shia branches. And this ancient division, as the source points out, just adds another layer of complexity, fueling rivalries within the Middle East that are still playing out today.
So, we've traced this conflict from its ancient family roots all the way through history. Now, the source makes a big pivot, away from the past and toward the future. It starts laying out an interpretation of biblical prophecies that it claims describe a final global war, one that will, once again, center on the Middle East. The source pulls out a key player for this future conflict from the Book of Daniel. It's a power called the King of the South, which the booklet interprets as a coming confederacy of Muslim nations, a unified power bloc that will rise out of the Islamic world.
And who's its opponent? Well, that would be the King of the North. The source interprets this as a revived Roman Empire, basically a European superpower. So, the stage is set for a prophesied clash of civilizations with roots that go back centuries.
So according to this prophetic scenario, the whole thing kicks off when the King of the South attacks. The European king of the north then retaliates with overwhelming force, taking over the Middle East and actually occupying Jerusalem. But just as that happens, new players jump into the fray, kings from the east with a massive army. And then, in the final, ultimate twist, all of these world armies gather at a place called Armageddon, not to fight each other, but to fight a common enemy, the returning Jesus Christ.
And just to give you a sense of the sheer scale the source is talking about, this is the size of that army from the east. The book of Revelation mentions a force of 200 million soldiers, all marching toward the Middle East for this final showdown. So, after this climax of total global warfare, the booklet ends with its vision for how this long, bitter history of conflict will finally, once and for all, be resolved.
And the source is crystal clear on this point. This escalating war isn't stopped by peace talks or human negotiations. The final resolution it describes is a straight-up divine intervention, the literal return of Jesus Christ, an event that triggers a complete reset of world government and even human nature itself.
And the vision for this new era is captured in this incredible ancient prophecy from the book of Isaiah. They shall beat their swords into plowshares. It's presented as the blueprint for what comes next, a future of real, lasting global peace.
I mean, this prophesied New World Order is radical. Jerusalem becomes the world capital, and war itself is just abolished. But most importantly for this whole story, the original wound is finally healed. That 4,000-year-old family feud between the descendants of Ishmael and Isaac, the conflict that started it all, is finally resolved. Which brings us to the final, big-picture question that the entire source material really hangs on. Could the key to future world peace actually be found in understanding an ancient family story?
Whether you see this as a literal prophecy or as a powerful metaphor, the core insight is pretty compelling. Maybe some of our biggest global conflicts have roots that are way deeper, more personal, and far more ancient than we usually think. And that's our look into the Middle East in prophecy. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer,